In this lesson, you are going to learn about the edges and faces of 3D shapes, specifically in prisms and pyramids. So first of all, prism or pyramid, how can I tell the difference? Well, the answer is pretty simple. Prisms have two faces that connect with rectangular faces. So there's always rectangles that connect two end shapes in a prism. Here are some examples. So on the left is a pentagonal prism, kind of looks like a house in this case, but it's because the two end pieces have five sides. And then the rectangular, which makes it a pentagon, and then it's a prism because there's two of them. Rectangular prism. This one, yeah, two rectangles that are connected with four more rectangles. Here's another example of a rectangular prism, and there's a triangular prism. So two triangles connected with rectangles. Pentagonal prism, there's another one. It doesn't look like a house, and a hexagonal prism. So there's a bunch of different types. Just whatever it has to have two shapes on either end and then connect with rectangles. And then that's different from pyramids, which have one shape and then connect to a point called an apex with triangles. So here's some examples. There's a square pyramid, so it's a square, and then four triangles that meet up top. Triangular pyramid, so it's a triangle with three triangles that meet up at the top. A pentagonal pyramid, a pentagon with five triangles that meet at the top, and a hexagonal pyramid with one hexagon, which has six sides. So that means there's six triangles that meet at the top, the apex. And so that's the difference between pyramids and prisms. Next up, we're going to look at edges and faces of 3D objects. And so you can see on the picture, but so a face is like a wall of a shape, and then an edge is where two walls meet. So here's a wall, and then there is the edge. They're not actually walls, but just to use some layman non-math terms. And in the picture, it also has a vertex, so that's like the point there. We don't talk much about vertices in this lesson, but let's talk about faces first. So faces include all of the sides of a shape, and so this triangular prism has five faces, so the two triangles and the three rectangles equals five total faces. And then we're also going to be looking at like how many are horizontal, vertical, parallel, and perpendicular, which you learned about last lesson. And so this one has one horizontal face, and so that is at the very bottom. That's horizontal. And then it has two vertical faces, so that's straight up and down, and that's the two end pieces, the two triangles, and has one pair of parallel faces. Again, that's the two triangles, and then six perpendicular faces. So every time the rectangle meets the triangle, that is perpendicular. So like here to here, pretend this is a triangle and that's a rectangle. So this part right here, that's perpendicular because it makes a perfect right angle. And so next up, we're talking about edges. So again, with the triangular prism, and then so there are 9 edges on that. So if you were to build this object with like marshmallows and toothpicks or spaghetti strands or whatever, you would count how many toothpicks or spaghetti strands that you had, all of the red pieces. So there are 9 on here. And so ignore how that says 5 faces, but this triangular prism has 5 horizontal edges. So the 4 on the bottom, those are all horizontal because they're like this, horizontal, horizontal, horizontal. And then up at the top is also, so it's just level with the ground. That's what horizontal is. And then vertical edges straight up and down has none of them. All of the ones that go up are on an angle. It has 6 pairs of parallel edges. So find 2 edges and see if they're parallel, then that's a pair. So the 2 triangles, that's 3 parallel edges just right there. And then the connectors also have different combinations of parallel. And then there's 12 perpendicular edges. So just like I said over here, so every time you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh wait, never mind. It's within a shape. I'm sorry. So within a shape. So like this face right here, and then so this is perpendicular right here on this 2D portion of this shape. This is perpendicular. This is perpendicular. That's perpendicular. That's perpendicular. So there's lots of them. let's look at 3 examples of describing shapes using their faces and edges. And so for example 1, this is a pentagonal prism. I mean, not prism, pyramid. Think about like pyramids in like Egypt. They look like that. Anyways, so we're going to find the number of vertical edges, vertical faces, horizontal edges, and horizontal faces. So first, vertical edges straight up and down. There are none. There are none. Nothing goes straight up and down. How about vertical faces? 0 also. Number of horizontal edges. There's actually 5. All of the edges of the pentagon are level with the ground. So there are 5. And then the number of horizontal faces, there is 1. It is the bottom face. Next up, find how many of each this prism has. So we're looking for horizontal edges, horizontal faces, parallel faces, and perpendicular faces. So first of all, horizontal edges. I've pointed to each one that is level with the ground. This one, I don't know how this shape is standing on its corner there, but it's standing like this. So none of these well, this is not obviously a hexagon, but none of these are horizontal. So there's 6 of them. Number of horizontal faces, there is 0. Nothing is horizontal because they're all at an angle. Number of parallel faces, there are 4 pairs. So in the pink is the first one, 2 here, 3, and 4. They have to be like this. Like they have to, if they were to extend, they would never ever meet. And so in a hexagonal prism, that's the way it is. And the number of perpendicular faces, there are 12. Wherever the rectangles meet the hexagon, that is perpendicular. And then, so here's some examples. I'm not showing all 12, but I'll show a few. So using the front face here, there's 1, 2, 3, and then you go all the way around with all of the inner faces or whatever, the rectangles. And then if you flip over to the other side, then they're also perpendicular to that one. So there's another one and another one and another one, and then go all the way around again. And then for example 3, find how many of each this prism has. So the number of horizontal faces, vertical faces, perpendicular faces, and parallel faces. So horizontal faces, that means like this. And so there are 2, the top and the bottom. I colored them in different colors of blue for you. Next up, number of vertical faces, there are 4. I colored them again, kind of the walls of a box it looks like. Then number of perpendicular faces is 12. And I did not want to color those in. It took me a long time to do the other one, but I'm sure you could figure it out. And then number of parallel faces, there are 3 pairs. So here's 1 pair, 2 pairs, and 3 pairs. And yeah, so you're going to be drawing shapes. Or no, you're not going to be drawing shapes. That's the next lesson, is drawing shapes. You are going to be identifying the properties of shapes. And so yeah, and then the next lesson you get to practice drawing prisms and pyramids, and that one's fun.